Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to Beyond the Hashtag. I'm your host, Stephen.
You are now locked into the Beyond the Hashtag podcast.
Hashtag BTHPOD. Any of our new followers and new watchers and new listeners, we have just actually crossed 1 year of Beyond the Hashtag since we created it in September 2020. So thank you for everyone who supported us in this 1 year adventure that we've had so far. We've recently just hosted a FIFA 22 giveaway to sort of thank our supporters for their help in the last year. And yeah, we're just really appreciative of the support that we've had. You know, we want to drive the conversation and move the needle, and you guys are a massive part of that. So I want to thank you for that. To any of our new followers, make sure you've subscribed to our YouTube or Spotify, turn the notifications on, that good stuff, so you're notified when we upload. But getting into today's episode, guys, I want to welcome a very special guest I've got with me. He was the first Black player to play for Hibs in Scotland. And when he became a manager, he was the first Black manager in 15 years in Scotland. I want to introduce you guys to Kevin Harper. Thank you for joining, Kevin.
No problem, Stephen. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Looking forward to your chat.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on. Firstly, actually, what are you up to these days? What does a week or day in the life of Kevin Harper look like these days?
Well, it's pretty busy, if I'm honest. I've just started a sports management company, Harper Sports Management, where we look after players and celebrities and all their needs, so to speak. It's a newly formed one, so it's really about having real ethics. You know, looking after the player, making sure that you're there for them no matter what, and making them obviously better people as well. You know, trying to help them understand how you navigate through a football career. It can be difficult at times. Certainly, you get ups and downs with it. So, doing that, I've got my own coaching academy and football academy, where we develop young kids into, you know, hopefully good footballers. Give them the basics of the game, and let them go and play. And also, I'm an advocate in my day job, a recruitment of modern slavery. I do a lot with Scotland against modern slavery, so real advocate of stopping that in the workplace. It happens all far too often, so pretty busy.
Yeah.
Along with four kids as well.
Just the four. No, that's amazing. And to be honest, I can just see, you know, if anyone is on LinkedIn and you just give Kevin a connection or a follow, you can see, you know, you're literally posting like multiple times a day on all those subjects that you've spoken about, and I've definitely caught wind of that. So no, it's amazing what you're doing to move the needle both for the current generation and the generations to come. So no, it's amazing. If anyone can check Kevin out on LinkedIn, I'd fully recommend it. Kevin, currently we're in Black History Month, so October 2021. So would you like to tell our listeners a bit more about your I guess your background and your origin, and what kind of Black History Month means to you?
Yeah, well, as a black man, I was born of a white mum, a black father, Jamaican descent. My dad passed away when I was 6 months old, so I didn't know him. Grew up with two white parents, which is difficult as a black kid. Getting asked why you're black when your mum and dad are white. So as you're a young kid, you don't understand that. You know, you make stories up, and I remember making a story up. I saying, it's to do with my granddad. My granddad's black. My granddad wasn't black. He was obviously white. The granddad that I knew. So that was difficult. You know, growing up in, you know, a white society, all white friends. So, you know, it wasn't really until I got into football. Well, when I get into football, I get racially abused consistently in a weekly basis for 90 minutes of the game. It wasn't 7-a-sides then. It was 11 a side. So, you know, back in the day, unfortunately it was just the norm. I knew as a 10-year-old, you know, a 10-year-old that I was going to get racially abused every time I stepped onto the pitch. So, you know, I grew up in a tough scheme. You know, probably one of the toughest in Glasgow, Postle Park, where the drug capital of Europe. There was lots of drugs, lots of fights, etc., etc. So you had to build tough skin as a black person. You know, pretty much fighting probably or arguing at least near enough every week because of the colour of my skin. So that was difficult, and then got into the professional game. You know, got racially abused against when I made my debut at Hibs as a 17-year-old. You know, became the first black player ever to play for Hibs first team, which was, I didn't find that out until about 2 years ago. Which,
oh wow,
which
that was only in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was 93. I made my debut. Yeah, so it took me a bit of time to find that out. Somebody told me that, which I wasn't aware of, which is disappointing that the club didn't mention any of it. But ultimately that's probably the way it was back then. If you look back, maybe nearly 30 years, and get racially abused against Hearts playing, as a 19-year-old, I think it was, and nobody really done anything. Went home. A reporter called me and wanted to do a story on it, and then I realised that it was a really big issue. From that day forward, I vowed that I would never be silent on racial hate, racial abuse. It's the one thing that I know about. Going through it, I don't know about other discriminatory things, but to speak in depth about, but I do know about racism. So for me, going on to your question on Black History Month, I think it's fantastic. In one sense, it's fantastic. It's a celebration of what Black people have done in this world, the good things that Black people have done, but it also is a disappointment that it's only 1 month. It's almost like another racial stamp on Black people and say, well, you're only allowed 1 month, rather than celebrating both what Black and every other ethnicity has done over the course of time. Blacks have been persecuted for hundreds of years, and we're still getting persecuted now. I don't think there's equality just now, but hopefully, I'm a hopeful person on that. That we will see equality sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, 100%. And to be honest, on the Black History Month point, I think for me, it goes towards actually embedding it in normal education and the history that everyone learns during school. So if you look at British history, there's Black people, Asian people were ingrained in British history for hundreds of years. So it just needs to be reflective of what actually happened, rather than just Henry VIII and all those kind of things. It needs to, like, if you teach everything, then you wouldn't need a Black History Month specifically, because it's just history. Like everyone just knows about everyone's history. So I think, in my opinion, that's where like the hope for Black History Month kind of turns to in the kind of long-term generation, is how I see it.
Yeah, I think we have to. It has to be taught. Black history has to be taught in schools. It has to be made aware that there was slavery, etc., etc. I know it's something that we don't want to talk about. It's the elephant in the room, as I always say. It's a difficult subject to talk about, but until we talk about it, it's always going to be a really difficult subject to talk about. So hopefully, moving forward, we'll be able to speak about it, and we'll be able to understand the heinous crimes that were persecuted, were dished out to Black people, and we move forward, and we move as a better society.
Yeah, because once you have that education and that knowledge, then you go a big step forward towards eradicating it and never letting it happen in society again. So yeah, and I fully agree with that. Moving back towards your playing career, and you mentioned a couple of topics, especially the racial abuse that you suffered. So yeah, first of all, being the first Black player to play for Hibs in the first team, especially up in Scotland as well, where I would, and correct me if I'm wrong, the diversity would have been a lot less than it would be in England, for different races. So I guess, how was that, like, just being in the first team, being around white teammates, and obviously playing against white opponents, white people in the crowd, and feeling as if you're literally like the only one who looks like you in your whole environment, especially in the 90s as well, when I guess these conversations definitely weren't happening.
It's as I said earlier, you know, I grew up in a white world, so I was used to it. I was used to being round about white people. I wasn't around many black people. If I'm if I'm honest with you, you know, at my school there was probably one other black person. Two in my primary school, one in my secondary school. One was a girl, so it wasn't as if I was round lots. So I knew what to expect. I knew the comments. You know, I got them week in, week out round a football pitch. And as I said, you unfortunately you build tough skin on it. You know, you get broad shoulders. You probably get a little chip in your shoulder as well. But you know, I expected it as a kid. You know, but I think when I went into professional football, or probably naive, I didn't believe that it happened there. You know, and for that then to happen, and the fans, you know, shouting profanities at you, you know, and the racial abuse as well was really difficult, because I must admit I didn't think that it would happen. I didn't think it would happen in the seniors, but you know, it was difficult. You know, I saw Mark Walters, you know, when I was a young kid, subject to racial abuse, and how he dealt with it was amazing. And I just hoped, you know, that I would be able to, you know, deal with it like he did. You know, I certainly didn't get it as bad. I didn't get bananas, except blown up bananas thrown out of the pitch to me. You know, so I never got it anywhere near what Mark Walters did. And you know, it was hard. It was hard because you didn't feel as if there was anybody supporting you, because they were all white. So some people had empathy. You know, some people didn't want to touch it. You know, they didn't want to acknowledge it. But you know, I never had anybody that I could turn to go, how do I deal with this? You know, I just had to, you know, sort of follow my own footsteps and believe that what I was doing in the process that I was doing was right. And, you know, looking back on it, was it right? You know, some of it probably was, other parts of it certainly were not.
Yeah. And I've got a question about the support later, but in terms of the abuse itself, I guess how much were you aware was direct abuse and how much came across as banter? Because I guess in the current day, obviously people still definitely get racial abuse, but a lot of it is covert and sort of covered up as banter. But in the 90s, and especially in your playing days, how much of it was like full on, this is abuse and I'm aware it's abuse, and how much of it was like, oh, just people kind of throwing jokes and you maybe not thinking it's the right thing, but also maybe not even acknowledging sometimes that it was actually abuse, but in the form of banter?
I think it crossed divides. I think it crossed into each other. You know, I think, you know, if you sort of pulled anybody up or you said anything about it, they would always say it was banter. You know, I think even to today, you know, most people that say racial things would say that it's banter. It's not. I'm not a racist. I think that's most people's opinion. They would say, "Oh no, I'm not a racist. I don't do these sort of things. It was just banter." You know, but I think then it was racial abuse. You know, I think it was racial abuse. I think, you know, teammates were saying, you know, other teams players were saying things and they would class it as banter. You know, but at the end of the day, it's only banter if you believe it's banter.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. You know, I think back then it was, as I say, it was almost normalised. You know, you always knew that, you know, you were going to walk down the street and you were going to get something, you know, purely because of the colour of your skin. You know, and I'm a proud black man. You know, and at the end of the day, you know, I didn't wake up one day and say I want to be black.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a choice I was given, and you have to deal with the realities of being black. You know, and I think the only way that I can describe it is if a white person was, you know, in a predominantly black country, how they would feel. You know, I would, you know, unless you went through it, you can only have empathy. You don't understand it. You know, you can have empathy, but you just don't know what words mean and how they're taken. And I think we have to be really, really careful on that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And then going into when incidents happen, and then some of the more high profile ones that you brought up, and some of the support that you did and didn't get, how much do you feel sort of your career and the opportunities you wanted to get, so even going up to play for Scotland and that kind of thing, was impacted by the incidents that you spoke out about? I think, was there one particular one in '96 that I think I read up and came up and it might not have directly affected it, but you could kind of see that, there's certain players that you were comfortably better than, but they were getting more Scotland caps than you, that kind of thing. So yeah, in terms of the support and then the lack of opportunities that arose from you speaking out about racial abuse.
I think it probably did affect. Yeah, I won't be naive to say it didn't. I had choice words to say about the SFA, and if you're going to go against the company that you want to work for, so to speak, they're going to take a dim light on that. I've got no issue admitting that. But I think also, when you are playing in a team that's top of the championship, in England, you're playing week in, week out with the likes of, Paul Merson, Tim Sherwood, Steve Stone, Shaka Hislop, Yakubu. You're playing in that team. You're playing week in, week out. You're top of the league, and you're not getting a Scotland cap. Then I think you wonder why when people are playing maybe 5 games in Scotland, and getting caps. You wonder, but at the end of the day, I was disappointed that I didn't get a Scotland cap. I was in a couple of squads, and I was disappointed that when players are coming up to you and saying, "Kevin, I can't believe that you're not in the team. You've been really doing really, really well in training. You've been immense in training." It does affect you. It does affect you. I won't deny that. But at the end of the day, the manager's there to make a choice. And I realise that, and you have to accept that. But I think certainly early on in my career, probably from 17 to probably 21, I think I deserved a Scotland cap.
Yeah.
I think I was probably one of the go-to people. Yeah, did I have injuries that maybe lacked it? Didn't help, yeah. But I think over the piece, when you're playing week in, week out at Hibs, who were in the top 5 consistently, apart from the year we get relegated, in the Championship in England, managers didn't look down there at that point. So I think in my honest opinion, did I deserve it? Was I good enough to play for Scotland? Yeah, I definitely thought I was.
And going on to the Portsmouth days, so for listeners and watchers who don't know, so Kevin played for Portsmouth, I think till 2005. I think was it 5 years he played for Portsmouth roughly?
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah. So and you were part of the, like you mentioned, the Championship winning squad that came up to the Premier League. Did you play with Vincent Perricard as well? Was Vincent? Yeah. So we had Vincent on a few episodes ago. But so just I guess on a lighter note, how was being involved in that Portsmouth team, Harry Redknapp, getting promoted, that kind of thing, even being in a space where, again, someone like Vincent Perricard's your teammates. I don't know if was Nigel Carshey there as well as a Scottish. Yeah. So again, so you've got not only a black teammate but a black Scottish teammate as well. So how was that whole environment on a football level, and obviously having a few more, I guess, black companions in the same team?
Yeah, it was no different from Derby in the sense of, I think when we went into that season, I remember thinking in close season, because Harry had took over, sort of the back end of the season before, and he got rid of a lot of players, and I think out of that group, he probably only kept myself, Nigel Quasi, Gary O'Neill, and Lynboy Primus. I think we were the 4 people that he kept from the previous regime, really. And I remember sitting in a close season and Harry bringing all these international players in and real good players, and thinking, how am I getting in this team? And that was a thought for me. So, I went away in a close season and worked as hard as I could. Came back, worked really hard in pre-season. Felt I had done really well in pre-season and in the games. And then the first game came and I wasn't even in the squad. I wasn't in the squad at all, which was disappointing. But you get that. Harry's brought in a lot of players. He brought in Steve Stone in my position. He brought in Gianluca Festa, who could play in my position. He brought in Matt Taylor, who could play in the left-hand side. And we were playing a 3-5-2. So I had to adapt my game, and I was fortunate that Steve Stone and he got injured. And that was an opportunity for me to go and play. Harry put me in, I think it was the 3rd game of the season, the 3rd or the 4th game of the season. I was on the bench for the 3rd game, and then I got in the 4th game. And I played the whole first half of the season at right wing back. And, it was I felt that I was doing okay, but the fans were booing me. You know,
Oh, wow.
anytime I got the ball, you know, they were booing me. When my name was getting called out that I was playing, they were booing me.
Wow.
And Harry kept playing me, but I felt myself, you know, that what I was doing for the team was good enough in the team, and obviously Harry was keeping. I kept playing, and I felt that, you know, the players were right behind what I was doing. You know, Paul Merson came and says, "Listen, Kevin, we know what you're doing, so don't worry about what the fans are saying." And I was like, "Yes, you know what? At the end of the day, if I'm playing, then I don't really care what the fans say." You know, and that was how I felt. And then Steve Stone came back from injury, and I was fortunate enough again that Matt Taylor on the left-hand side, he got injured and he was out pretty much for the rest of the season. And when Steve Stone came back, I got moved over to play left wing back, and I played left wing back for the second half of the season. And you know, by the end of the season, the fans were shouting and singing my name
in a good way,
you know,
yeah.
in a good way. And you know, little did they know that I played that whole season with a double hernia.
Oh, wow.
So you know, that on top of that was difficult. But you know, that's the type of player that I was. So you know, in that sense, it was really good to, you know, from the journey, and it shows which hard work, dedication, and I never say die attitude helps. I wasn't the most skillful player in the team, that's for sure. But you know, I think what I lacked in skill, I made up for in work rate and effort and covering players. And you know, I think I've probably became a little bit of a cult hero in Portsmouth after all that, and to get a championships winners medals, amazing.
No, that's special. And yeah, I mean, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So no, absolutely. I think you're definitely testament to that. And then speaking on, I mentioned Nigel Quasi earlier, and I guess black players playing for Scotland in general. I'll ask you, what does it mean to be a black Scottish man? And because I had a conversation when at the back end of the Euros, when England were doing really well, and people were talking about how proud they felt to be a black English person, and which hasn't always been the case in previous years. You know, some people call themselves black Brits, but not necessarily a black English person. So, and we even spoke about, and this is a conversation at work, in stuff like when you're filling out diversity forms and you know, where your ethnicity is, there's not even always an option for like a black Welsh person or black Scottish person. It's only just black British or like black African, black Caribbean kind of thing. So yeah, like what does it mean to you to be a black Scotsman specifically, or do you refer to yourself as a black Brit? How do you sort of, I guess, identify it?
I identify myself as Scottish, even though I was born in Oldham, and you know, I moved up to Scotland when I was about 6 months. I don't remember. I only remember being in Scotland. So for me, I'm proud to be Scottish, in the sense of that if anybody asks me where I am, I'm from Scotland.
Yeah.
You know, but I think over the years, it's been a bit, I've been sort of doubting the Scottish side of it, because you know, there's been a lot of racism. We tend to think that we're a very open and welcoming country, which we are, you know, majority of the times. But I think in race and, you know, diversity, we're diverse, but I don't think we're equal opportunity, that's for sure.
Okay.
And I think we have to work harder. So for me, yeah, I'm proud to be Scottish on the one hand, but I'm also disappointed that we don't do more on race and equality, and we sort of tick the boxes. You know, I think for us as a nation, you know, a small nation at that, I think we should be leading from the front on these types of subjects, because we have the opportunity to. We're never going to be, you know, the biggest country in the world. You know, even in a football sense, you know, we have to work really hard to get anywhere. You know, and I think the Euros showed the country came together, even though we didn't get out of the group. You know, for the first time in 20 years was an amazing journey. But but at the end of the day, I think for me, you know, in the footballing side, you know, football has got a huge market out there. You know, and I think we as Scotland should be doing more in diversity and inclusion. You know, and I think when I look back at myself, and you think of, you know, 15 years it took for another black manager. I think John Barnes was the last manager. Yeah. No, it wasn't. It was Maximo, somebody at Livingston.
Yeah, but South American guy, yeah.
Yeah, that was 15 years it took for a black man to manage in Scotland, and it was 18 years for, Alex Dyer to become the first manager in 18 years to manage in the Premier League in Scotland. So I think when you look at these stats, any other walk of life, it would be frowned upon, but somehow in football, it's acceptable.
Yeah, and the market that you said football has, and that's one of the reasons why I made this podcast and platform such a niche topic area, because like if you look at what the Euros did to this country, what sport in general does to so many countries around the world, like people love sport and have so much passion and love towards sports. So I think that, if you can bring about so much joy in that sense, then why can't we use it to eradicate, the negative issues in society?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Stephen.
I just want to finish off just by touching on the sports management career and the company that you kind of set up, looking at players and I guess the different routes that players can get into after football, and why you chose to, I guess, take the routes that you did, and any sort of encouragement you'd give to both current players and even young players who are thinking about life beyond, the football career.
I think it's probably been said before. I think as a kid, you tend to think that your footballing career is going to last forever, and I think you do. And for me, it's about just educating players in how to manage their time, manage their finances, manage them. Make sure that they can give the best. As I say, I've went through the ups and downs. I've had 13 injuries, 13 operations throughout my footballing career, so I know what a setback is. I know how to get over that setback. I know how difficult it can be, with family, how with friends, and how you want to portray yourself. Social media is a big thing now, which is a different avenue that people can get at you. So it's dealing with all these. I've dealt with it all my career. I've lived experience. So for me, it's about trying to just put in place things that give players the best opportunity to succeed, and trying to take the things that are negative away from them, and help them understand when they do have a bad game or they're not in the team. But there's always a positive out of it. How can you do better? Have a look at yourself. So these things it's a support network. It's a support network, but most importantly for us, what it will do is any revenue that we get from a player's transfer, etc., a portion of that will go back into our academy.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Back into the academy, so that we can assist with players coming up as well. So it's, as I say, it's a circular thing. So you have the management company, you have the academy, you have the coaching. So all that circuit. So it's all circular. So everyone feeds into it, every other one. And for me, if you're given something back in a positive manner, then other people benefit from that, and hopefully you'll find the next player in that group that maybe be like myself. That if it wasn't for my boys club manager, I probably wouldn't have played football because I couldn't afford it. So we're giving these people, these kids that are maybe not afford it, or their parents can't buy football boots, they can't pay the fees, that we have the facility to assist in that.
No, 100%. And yeah, I think it's so important, especially in this generation where people can have so many strings to their bow. And you mentioned social media, and there's so many avenues that footballers can go down, rather than just the standard kind of coaching route. Going to punditry, going to sports management. Social media itself is a career in itself. So it's just giving them the best opportunities. And as you mentioned, one injury can just finish someone's whole career. So it's important that they recognize and able to manage their finances. There's countless examples of ex-players not managing their finances as best as they can. So I'm fully supportive of that. And Kevin, if you send me the details of your sports management companies and your coaching academies, I'll put them in the comments and descriptions below for the guys to check out, especially for our Scottish viewers. But we'll end part one there, Kevin. So thank you for your conversation, and guys, join us for the next episode where we're going to speak about management and executives, and sort of a top-down and bottom-up approach to eradicating discrimination.
#BTHPOD.